Hey everyone, welcome to Hungover Media's esports show. Group up with me. My name's Yvonne over there.
Julien, welcome to the show, guys.
Group up with me. Thank you everyone for tuning in. This week we're going over Overwatch League Stage 3 Week 3 review, Week 4 preview. And thankfully, not a lot of controversy in our news and notes from around the league.
Thank God.
We've got some general news from Overwatch. So Hanzo has been reworked and he's live in the PTR. He's got the rapid fire arrow, which allows him to fire, I think it's 5 arrows in quick succession.
Not
You
bad.
can tap it or you can hold it. It's a rework of what the
Scatter arrow.
Scatter arrow, thank you.
Yeah.
Function was, plus his new jump evade ability, which allows him to jump while he's in the air. It's pretty cool. We'll do some reviews on him. Neither of us really play Hanzo.
Maybe we will now.
Maybe we will now.
I'm most interested in the evade maneuverability for him because he can particularly get wrecked if he's dove on and doesn't have his scatter shot. So, which he doesn't anymore now. So he's gonna need a way to get out.
Yeah, but he does seem to be more deadly in the long range game and just as deadly in the medium to close range game. I think he can still really do a lot of damage. I think it's like 80 damage per arrow in the quickfire versus 100 with the charge up. So if you're getting those quickfire arrows, headshots, 2 of them will cancel out a tracer, for instance, things like that. So it's a lot of improvement to how the character plays, I think, and it won't feel as random when you're getting scattered arrowed.
It shatters your soul. So
yeah, that's what it does. The other things that we know, Tracer, her pulse bomb, the damage got dropped, and we've also got a smaller hitbox on the Genji deflect as ways to try and reform some of the major dive heroes. We've already had some reform to Diva's damage, so this is just the overall package of trying to reform all the dive characters to make dive not the most preeminent meta.
They're really, really going at that dive composition. It's not gonna be at all played ever again. It looks like.
We're done.
You're done.
The last major thing that I think will happen and affects not only Overwatch League but Overwatch in general is that Horizon Lunar Colony is getting a huge revamp. So we'll see there will be from attacking from on point A, there's no longer the top and bottom on the right side if you're on attack to go straight onto the point. The bottom opens up to a side door. There's also a ramp that the defenders have to get onto that high ground immediately rather than going through the point and up the other side. And the high ground has been totally reworked on point B, where as attackers would usually go up on the right side, and there's that long hall on the right side of the map that you get all that high ground and then down the stairs to where the defenders would spawn from and the point. This time that section has been cut and basically placed on the left side. Defenders don't open up straight onto the point anymore. They have to choose left or right side. There's a lot of reworks to Horizon Lunar Colony. We'll take a look at them when they come live, especially with health pack placement and how that all has changed.
I'm excited. That level can be pretty tough when you're on defense sometimes.
Yeah, so all of these reworks were done in the mind that attackers have the advantage and they want it to get to more of a 50-50 split. And at the moment, attackers have a significant advantage over defenders on Horizon Lunar Colony. So we'll get into that in a second, or later in the series of this show. But right now, we're going to get into some Overwatch League news. So we've got some changes to the stage standings. The most important with is Boston is on a super hot streak right now.
They're out of control.
6-0.
They're out of fucking control. God.
What do you think of this Boston team, Julien?
I hate Boston because I'm from New York, but I am really actually very impressed that Boston Uprising's doing so well, even after losing. We all counted them out, basically, because they lost Dreamcasper for, I mean, obvious reasons that he should be let go. That's what they use those terminologies. He definitely got fired. Uh, but yeah, so that was their main source of DPS essentially, besides striker. And so Mistakes has had to take up the secondary DPS position there, and striker has decided to take it on his own and just totally play out of his mind. He is a great tracer, and now that and Mistakes ends up playing a lot of the secondary DPS to tracer on their team, usually, and it works out. Sometimes it works out, not every play, but obviously the majority of the plays, the rest of the team is totally carrying Mistakes. So
Yeah, no, I would agree with that totally. There are occasional moments where Mistakes does shine, but he's not as consistent as the former DPS player on Boston was, and he is not as big of a name or a shining star. So obviously Mistakes has had much less time to practice with them in scrims, as leaked by people like XQC. He would just come to the studios, basically to the practice room, to play ranked and practice that way.
yeah,
He wasn't really involved with scrims, so he's been involved in scrims for a short amount of time, and so there's not been a super long prep time. I mean, a lot of these teams have had stage 1, 2 in order to get their teams together. This is in the middle of stage 3 to get ready for this kind of thing. It's crazy for Boston to go through this and still stay at the top. We saw some crazy plays from Mistakes, though, like the deflect high noon kill on Fleta when they played Soul. He's had some Widow play that has been decent, but I think for the most part he does get outplayed, except for on Sombra.
yeah.
Sombra is probably his best character, but the real stars of Boston are everybody else who's doing so much more work. I mean, Striker, Gamsu, Note, Kellex, they're doing Neko. They're all doing so much in order to make sure that Mistakes' slow integration or quick integration, as it has to be, into this team doesn't take a toll on their overall standing. Otherwise, we've got London, who doesn't have a consistent roster and isn't consistent at all in this stage.
I know. It's as if they really hate Sombra or something. Or maybe they just have no idea. Maybe they just are totally sandbagging, want to let someone else take the stage playoffs for once. Which I guess
heard
they
it here
do.
first, folks.
London is sandbagging. But I think it's really impressive that Boston has defeated. Not only have they won all their games this stage, but they beat they beat the best team, NYXL, and they beat Seoul and they beat London. So those are three of at least from prior stages experience, those are the best teams in the league. So it's nothing to scoff at. They totally had some really great games with them. I enjoyed all the games that I saw of Boston playing, and they also beat Philly Fusion, which is again nothing to scoff at. So
and they 4-0'd Houston.
Yeah.
So yeah, this team has showed that they're doing well. London, on the other hand, struggling, only 2-4, and I don't know what's going on with London. I think the roster inconsistencies, something is up with this meta and just having the team focus together. Maybe it's being on tilt so much, or maybe the stage playoffs of the previous stage, how that ended up with Philly, has really thrown them off their game. They haven't really recovered since then. Again, it's only been 3 weeks, so we don't know exactly what's going on to make it not do so well, but they did beat one of the top teams in LA Valiant this week, so they ended the LA Valiant's win streak, and that is an important matchup, one that I was highlighting last week, and thinking that this would be the deciding factor in whether the LA Valiant were a real team or not, and I don't know. London Spitfire really needs to turn it around for the coming weeks.
Yeah.
Now, a team that has really enjoyed this meta, I think, is the SF Shock.
I know they are coming out on top. The majority of their games, obviously 4-2, as you can see below. They beat the Gladiators, which is pretty sweet, a pretty sweet win, and they beat the Fusion, which is really the big surprise there, because SF is been sitting towards, pretty much 10th place, 11th place for a pretty long time. The entire stage 2 and stage 3, or at least that's how I imagine it. I'm not entirely. Oh, they were in 9th place. Okay, I was close. And 9th place. And 9th place. So they've been sitting in 9th. I got completely wrong. I'm sorry. They've been in 9th place for 3 stages now, almost. And then now, finally, in stage 3, they're coming out, and now they're top 4 teams. So they're gonna, if things go their way, the way they've been going so far, they're going to make it into the playoffs.
Yeah, they finally have their players like Sinatra
of stage 3.
And for stage 3, Sinatra and Super. So two of their main core that they really wanted to engage with in this stage that have come of age. They've reached 18, so they're able to play. So you get Dante and Sinatra plus Super on that off-tank role.
Yeah.
And you get a really powerful young core. I really enjoy the way that they experiment a little bit, try out different things. You saw Sinatra kick ass with Doomfist, for instance, on one of the let's throw everything at the wall to try and save a point on Ilios. So I think it's a team that has a lot of promise, and the fact that they're doing so well at this stage seems to mean that, A, the meta is really in their favor with Dante and Sinatra able to play like Sombra Tracer, which is an unusual pairing. Most teams don't run that. They'll run either the Tracer or the Sombra. But with those dual combination of flankers, it's kind of an interesting thing that they get to run. So I'm really excited to see that the SF Shock is able to succeed, and with a sort of different team comp than a lot of other teams run.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see just new teams in the top 4, really, honestly. It's sort of been dominated by NYXL, London, and Seoul for the past bit, and then now we're seeing Philly came out in stage 2, and now we're seeing Boston and SF and the Valiant getting their spotlight here. But someone has to dethrone NYXL, right? Someone's gonna do it. I don't want that to happen, but maybe it'll happen. We'll see.
Yes, and I was serving you the transition on the silver platter, but I'll make it a little more firm.
Thank you.
Now.
Please just make it. Just do it for me, please.
So the SF Shock runs that Sombra Tracer comp a lot, which is more unusual than a lot of other teams do. But as we do every week, Julien likes to examine a team comp that is a little strange.
Yeah, it's a segment that we do every single week called Julien's Juicy Comp. Roll the intro.
That guy's awesome! Awesome! He's awesome!
Yes, you heard it right. This is Julien's Juicy Comp, the segment where we go over a juicy comp in the Overwatch League. I decided to pick a match between LA Gladiators and Los Angeles Valiant today because I thought this was one of the most interesting matches of the week in Stage 3.
Third battle for LA.
The third battle for LA, but I think this one might have been the best battle for LA if you're just talking in terms of exciting Overwatch. But basically, the Gladiators decided to run a solo Mercy comp where they, in terms of healing, and they had the Bastion setting up on the point with Widowmaker to support him by, or rather, everyone would focus on the Bastion and Widowmaker can get a bunch of kills. And everyone else would support the Bastion because they have 3 tanks in Orisa, obviously, because that's the pirate ship meta. And then they've got D.Va and Roadhog. Roadhog particularly pairs pretty well with Orisa, and D.Va can fly around to, if Widowmaker, for instance, needs help, D.Va can be there for her. And of course, D.Va's there to either, soak up some of the damage or, finish off some enemies if she sees some stragglers. So I thought it was a really interesting thing.
You get the peel, It's a great addition,
Yeah.
and I think this specifically works with Surefour on the Widow, because we've seen that Surefour is a very independent Widowmaker. They leave him alone to go out and do his own thing, make sure that he
Gets
has
the rip
his
there.
own ability. I think one of the great things that Surefour adds to the Widow position is his ability to be independent and to get out of sticky situations when he needs to and move around and flank the enemy, as you see that he does throughout this point A and then going into point B.
It was an epic comp. Just wanted to highlight it for you guys. Keep on playing Overwatch.
That was an awesome, juicy comp that we saw that the LA Gladiators ran for that point A on Junkertown. Again, that triple tank meta is really, really in the meta. So triple tank plus Bastion and some other character. Usually, it could be a Widow or a Junkrat or somebody, and the single healer. You see that run on both sides. But that was an interesting one because of Surefour and the tanks which we saw that were played there. But what we're going to get into now is our players of the week. So, Julien, who did you have as your player of the week?
You're asking me for a juicy comp and the player of the week from my perspective. Well, I've got another one for you. Houston Outlaws versus the Dallas Fuel. I choose to highlight Linkser this week because he really laid it on Dallas Fuel, at least in the first on Vizcaya Industries, where he played Genji and Widowmaker. As you can see, he just got a sweet triple kill that led to capturing the point, a highly coordinated attack where he takes out half the team and the rest of his team takes out the other half. So I thought it was pretty epic. This I decided to highlight because it was really funny to me. He goes flying off the stage because he gets killed as he's dashing. So Overwatch decides to amplify the momentum he has. He ends up getting 2 Dragon Blades that I thought were pretty sick there. But really, this kill right there on the Tracer, and he ends up stopping this entire push in that leads to overtime by basically killing the Tracer, stopping the push, and then ending up picking off the stragglers who are trying to get out, and he gets a sweet hook shot kill there. So I thought that was worthy of player of the week.
Awesome.
Awesome. Yes.
Yes. All right. Awesome. That was a great play. I think Linkser is one of the more underrated DPS players that we get to see week to week. He has an amazing skill set, and because of the structure of the Houston DPS plays a wide variety. His player pool is huge, but that Widowmaker he has is astounding to me. Mm-hmm. This week, I'm highlighting a player that didn't pop up in the kill feed all that much, but creates the space that allows his team to do what they need to do. And that's why, this week, I'm highlighting Gesture from the London Spitfire. So, for my highlights this week, we're not going to see a lot of Gesture actually in movement, but we'll see the space that he opens up. You saw there on his jump, when he's moving into this space, he's pushing everybody off. They see that the dive is coming in because of where the Winston is going. You see here, he's moving Striker Mistakes, he's moving Kellex on the Mercy. They're all running off. This allows for Prophet to get in there, get that kill. Hagapin was on the other side ready to intercept as well. And this is just an example of the space that Gesture creates. Again, London Spitfire has this wide range of heroes that they move in, or not heroes, but players that they move in and out a lot of the time. But one of the biggest mainstays is Gesture. You see, he's created that space there. He's low on health, his healers get him up, and now they're waiting for this dive to come in. Boom, that's when Gamsu comes in, and he counter dives to go after this Ana. He's bringing in the space, allowing for his team to make sure that they're staying up. While Neko gets picked, Gamsu gets picked, Hagapin goes down, but this allows them to capture this point right here. And then he opens up with his Primal Rage, creating more space, more disruptions in the backlines, and gets 3 kills basically due to that Primal Rage. In this next highlight, we see as they push out, we see Mistakes engaging there, and you'll see Gesture comes flying in around this corner. This breaks up the team completely. Kellex gets taken out. Neko gets taken out. Mistakes is trying to pop this buy out of field to stay up and also help support the people around him. But it's too late, and you see up here, Hagapin gets 3 or 4 kills. That's all generated from the space that Jester creates. You'll see here, Jester's pushed in there on the dive. He comes flying back out, but the damage has already been done. You see Gamsu, 46 from Hagapin. The rest has been done by what Jester is able to do by pushing in. So Jester, even though he didn't lead his team to defeating the Boston Uprising, does enough to make sure that his team is winning out in a lot of these team fights, and that's why he's a constant mainstay in these London Spitfire teams.
Yeah, the best thing a tank player can focus on in terms of their play is creating space for their team at the right times, because that allows your team to play a little more comfortably and, of course, take advantage of the opportunities you've given them. So that's almost entirely the number one thing that I think separates good tank players from average or bad tank players is creating space for your team.
And as we say that, all of this, it comes into my important question. My important question deals a lot with Boston's surge up the league standings. So as we see here, Boston is second in the overall standings.
Yeah.
This is due a lot to their 6-0 winning streak right here in Stage 3. So my question for you, Julien, is Boston heating up at the right time, or are they going to burn out before the Season 1 playoffs?
Well, there's still a Stage 4 if I'm not mistaken, right? So I see what you're saying there, because that means they have 8 more games to play. They have to play everyone, or maybe 12 more games. Sorry,
14 more games
14.
At the minimum.
Oh yeah, because
not counting playoffs.
Because
it's 5 weeks, 2 games each week of Stage 4, plus the remaining 2 games for this week and next week, plus the playoffs.
That is true. That is a lot of games, but of course, we're just seeing mistakes. Filling a role that he needed to fill. So he is not, as we've seen, he's not really pulling off stellar plays yet, but I believe we've seen an upwards trend in his play. I mean, the first week, even though they've won all their games, right, in this stage, but the first week we were even making fun of him because he was just getting taken off and dying and making interesting plays, to say the least.
His Widow play was not... his Widow positioning was almost always out of position, especially on Junkertown A.
Right, exactly. So, and I think that's partially you're playing with a new team, a new group of boys. You know, there's no other women except for Gaguri in this league. So a new group of boys, you know, that you might not be so comfortable playing with. And of course, the biggest factor is you're playing on stage, being watched by 100,000 people. He knows that in the back of his mind, and that is a lot of and he's DPS, so that's what a lot of people look towards in terms of exciting moments in Overwatch. So that's a lot of pressure to be put on a new player, and of course he's a great player because he's made it onto this team. So he's very good at Overwatch, but he has to fill a large role in that Dreamcasper role. So I think we've seen an upwards trend in his play. I think he's going to do better next week, or this week, and. But there are quite a few games to play, so it's either going to if it doesn't get better this week, I think they're going to just taper off where they are now, and their level of play won't increase, and I believe we'll see the teams that have more experience and will win the long run, as is often the case.
Yeah. I also think that this is the level of integration of mistakes into the starting lineup is taking a toll on the rest of the team.
Yeah. You
saw that Striker was crying after the victory against London Spitfire this week.
He had to play out of his mind.
It was such an emotional and stressful time against one of the best teams, making sure that you're doing everything that you can to make sure your team is going to win. I think it's taking a lot of toll, and over time, if mistakes can't get up to the level where they need him to be,
right,
I think that it will take too much emotional and physical and mental toll on these other players and might see Boston slipping down. Now we know that the top 6 teams will make it to the overall season 1 playoffs, and right now Boston is in an amazing position, but they're being nipped at by the heels. Again, Houston Outlaws is currently in 7th place with 15 wins. That's only 3 games back from where Boston is currently. I mean, even if New York is not in the perfect position that they can just lose every match and still make it there. So it's going to be a really poignant
Arduous
time for the next
task.
for the next few weeks. Yeah, and again, you're waiting. There's so much stress for Boston. I think, especially in this stage, they made it past the most difficult teams. They beat Philly. They beat NYXL. They beat Seoul. They beat London. Now, if they lose to another team, it's going to be like that. What happened? Why did they lose to this team? So I think that might take a different psychological toll. Going undefeated in this stage is also really stressful.
Right.
So I hope to see that Boston continues their recent success. Although I hate Boston as a city, I like their team, and Mistakes is a Russian, so I support him.
Well, yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
this is Moscow, but yeah.
I mean,
in any case,
when you're playing video games at this high level, it doesn't just become, it's not a video game anymore at this point. It's your livelihood. It's all on the line. This is taking a psychological toll on these players, as you saw. Stryker was crying, literally. A grown man crying because he played a video game. So this is taking a toll, on these players. So
taking a toll for this new role.
Get in the boy's soul. What?
So, Julien, speaking of things that we have to look forward to in terms of Season 1 playoffs, we've got some games that we're going to look forward to this week. What's your game of the week this week?
My game of the week is the London Spitfire versus LA Gladiators. You know, London has really dropped in the ranks as of lately, but I think we've seen the first 2 stages. They were a great team. They had to prove themselves to the big boys in NYXL and Seoul Dynasty, who were thought to have been going into the first season of Overwatch League. NYXL and Seoul Dynasty were thought of to be the best teams, right? And London totally proved themselves as the top dogs in the league. And in stage 3, we've seen them drop down. Now I believe they're in 10th place, or that's what we saw. They're pretty low. They're in. Damn it! Why can't I get that right?
It's the 9th place.
I don't know.
That always messes with you.
And I think the LA Gladiators, they totally proved themselves. They're giving everyone a run for their money. At least they're in 5th place.
They're very competent.
They're
team.
Fairly competent team. They have Sure4 in their DPS, and that is they're a really great team, and they're really taking advantage of this meta. Although not nearly as well as Boston and SF Shock. But London is hungry for a win. They don't want to go out like little bitches, so I think this is going to be a really good game.
Yeah, we'll see if the London lineup can stabilize. I'm always excited. I think point A on Volskaya is where Sure4 either shines or disappears. So we'll see how that works. I also love watching Fissure play his old team in London Spitfire, so it's always an exciting game. I think, as he noted in the roundtable when it was him talking with Bedosian, in effect, the audience loves the drama of players facing their previous teams. So that is a great game. I'm also looking forward to that game. I might take some time out of my day to watch that. The game that I'm going to highlight this week is another London Spitfire game, and it's London Spitfire versus SF Shock. Now, you might say, this is probably a game that doesn't really, it doesn't present a big challenge for London Spitfire if you were talking about stage 1 or 2. Now, SF Shock has been 9th in the standings overall and within the stages.
I thought it was 10th.
So,
just kidding.
So usually that would have been the case, but now with Sinatra and Space in the lineup, it is a very different, or Super in the lineup, it is a very different team. I think that they are coming out strong, and if you look at what the map pool is, it's going to be an interesting time for both of these teams. Again, this is Numbani, Junkertown, Elias, Volskaya. So these are maps that
It's
favor
Route
either one of these
66.
teams.
There's no Junkertown is the tiebreaker.
Yeah, Route 66 is
It looks
it's
like
Numbani, not Junker. Or no, it's
Route
Route
66.
66, not Junkertown. Yeah, that's right. So we'll see some interesting games. I personally, one of my favorite maps to watch is Numbani.
Yeah.
Just because it has led to some very weird fights. So I think SF Shock will put up a very good fight. And this is kind of one of those, like I was saying last week with LA Valiant playing against London Spitfire. This is a matchup that shows, are you for real? Can you beat one of the top teams?
Mm-hmm.
London Spitfire came away with that victory. So SF Shock, are you a real team? Or are you just a team that can beat up on the lower end of the table? So this is going to be it for me.
Yeah, this is going to be a great game. I can't wait to watch it too. It's on Saturday.
And
nice.
with that, that's the end of this group up with me. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name's Yvonne.
And I'm Julien. Catch you guys next week.